out Gordon Ryan's recent Instagram story, which read, "I see everyone saying I'm only doing the super fight this year." Gotta get hydrated for this episode. Topo Chico, please sponsor me. I love you guys so much. On today's episode, I'm going to be breaking down the latest and greatest news between the CJI Craig Jones Invitational and ADCC drama. We're going to be covering everything from the recent Joe Rogan Experience times Craig Jones podcast that was released. A lot of information there. If you don't want to sift through a 2-hour-long podcast, I got you covered with all the important facts and little bits of information that we got from that podcast. We'll also take a look at one of the only interviews I've seen from Jassim so far after all of this has unraveled, and what his take is on the potential for more fighter dropouts. Tomorrow, we also have a live chat with special guest Matt Scaff, where we're going to be diving deep into the rule set and if this is going to be an entertaining rule set in comparison to ADCC and other jiu-jitsu promotions. And last but not least, we are going to be responding to some of your guys' comments from the last live chat when I was kind of just casually going over things. There were a few comments that I want to talk about because we have more information now that makes things a little bit more interesting. The confirmed athletes as of Tuesday, May 28th at 6:50 p.m. are Nicky Ryan, Joseph Chen, William Tackett, Mason Fowler, Andrew Tackett, Nicky Rod, Luke Rockhold, and Fionn Davis. Obviously, Fionn isn't going to be competing in the men's division, so there could be another person from ADCC coming over to CJI. Any predictions on who that might be? Drop it in the comment now. The most important piece of information to dissect so far would definitely have to be the Joe Rogan Experience interview. Craig Jones laid out a lot of details, and he's also going to be going on Modern Wisdom soon to talk about all the tea. So Joe Rogan's podcast, definitely a top podcast, but Modern Wisdom, my personal favorite podcast, is also a huge platform. It's getting the Joe Rogan Experience status. So if you're not hip to Modern Wisdom, definitely check that podcast out. Joe Rogan did a great job in this interview. Within 8 minutes of the podcast, he asked Craig the one question that I think a lot of people were feeling. So what was the idea of going head to head with ADCC? If you really want to grow the sport, wouldn't you just pick an alternative weekend? And I think that's what a lot of people were thinking. Like, if Craig really wanted what was best for the sport, he would let the athletes have their legacy at ADCC and then also give away this awesome money and have a tournament on a separate weekend. And to which Craig answered, which I think his answer made a lot of sense, "This fruit fly must die." Fuck yeah. His answer made a lot of sense. He's trying to take a stand, go up against ADCC, and really force them to up their pay. And the only way to really accomplish that was by making it on the same weekend. I did point out that the fans will be able to enjoy both, since Craig's is happening on Friday and Saturday and ADCC will be Saturday, Sunday, and so the fans can still catch the championship if they want to. Without a doubt, it is obvious that Craig Jones has good intentions in terms of turn a lot of the money they make to charity. The athletes will have a choice on which charity they get to donate to. Athletes are going to be making more for just showing up than they would to win ADCC. So that's a $10,000 prize just to show versus ADCC, which is a $10,000 prize to win it all. In the podcast, they also talked about where this money is coming from and how the investor wants to be kept under wraps. They did spill other tea that I thought was interesting, like Joe just coming right out and saying, well, how much do grapplers make on a UFC Fight Pass Invitational? UFC Fight Passes have been doing a lot of big things for the sport of jiu-jitsu. How much do they make? And Craig Jones was kind of like, oh, Steve might kill me. Steve Tecci is the president of UFC Fight Pass. So talking numbers kind of gets a little dicey. He didn't specify anything towards any athlete, but he did say that the range could be from 10K to 6 figures, which I thought was a very interesting number to drop, very broad. And I guess it would really depend on where you are in your jiu-jitsu career. But even 10K for a really unknown jiu-jitsu grappler, I think is pretty solid compared to the fact that ADCC, the best athletes, are getting $10,000 to win the biggest tournament of all time. Craig also said that they have a $3 million budget for this first event. The Craig Jones Invitational one will budget out $2.3 million to its athletes. Everything else will go to the production. The production is going to be through YouTube. You can stream it for free. It is going to be inside of something similar to a pit, but not exactly a pit. It'll be a rectangular shape, and it was inspired by Karate Combat. I used to work, and I still work with every now and then Karate Combat, and I'm aware that Karate Combat has a very strict patent on the square pit that they have. So when everyone comments on the UFC Fight Pass Invitational and they're like, hey, they keep falling off of the platform, just get a pit so they're enclosed in there. They can't just get the pit. They would be sued heavily by Karate Combat. So that's the reason why other promotions haven't been using the pit for jiu-jitsu competitions. Craig Jones is definitely in a bit of cahoots with the Karate Combat promotion. Now it looks like he has their blessing to take the rectangular shape with those little ramps coming in. It's going to be the layout of this jiu-jitsu tournament, and they also dove into the rules. We're going to dive deeper into the rules on our live chat tomorrow with Matt Scaff. But something that Craig Jones is looking to do is steal away MMA fans, and he thinks that a good way to do that would be to make it a 10-8 must system, which I feel like is one of the least favorite things about MMA. So I'm very interested to see how the 10-8 must system works in a jiu-jitsu setting. He said that it'll be open scoring so that the jiu-jitsu athletes kind of know what's going on and what they have to do to get the win. And there's going to be judges using the 10-8 must system. 10-8 must system was taken from boxing. It didn't really translate super well into MMA, so I'm really interested to see how this plays out in jiu-jitsu terms. Let me know what you guys think about the 10-8 must system in a grappling setting. Also, if you guys are enjoying this video, please hit the like button. That helps me so far. It pushes this content out to the other jiu-jitsu nerds. So if you love this type of content, I will continue to make more because I love you guys and I love jiu-jitsu, not because I am hired by anyone and am being paid to do this. So if you guys can also hit that notification button so you can keep up with all the recent news that's coming up, and also subscribe because we are getting closer and closer to 50K. Anyway, back to the news. One of the things to look forward to is the biggest super fight in jiu-jitsu history. Craig Jones compared it to Roger Gracie versus Buchecha, Andre Galvao, and Gordon Ryan. It is none other than Craig Jones versus Gabby Garcia. That contract is apparently signed. You know, a lot of people thought that Craig Jones was joking about this whole CJI thing. So I don't think he's joking about this Gabby Garcia versus Craig Jones super fight. So I think that is 100% legit. And we are going to be seeing another announcement of an ADCC athlete leaving that roster and headed to CJI. So we will keep an eye out on that to see if the announcement is made official. Obviously, there's been a lot of drama between Craig Jones and Mo Jassim. Mo has said time and time again that he doesn't really take this stuff personally, but he has been pretty quiet when it comes to the ADCC live chats that he usually does. But I did come across an interview that I could not figure out what the date of this interview was, but he basically said that he is not worried about athletes dropping out. There was one ADCC where they had 19 athletes drop out due to injury, so he is not afraid of having to find replacements. He just asks that the athletes give him enough time of a heads up so he can make those replacements appropriately. But he also said that there isn't a shortage of people who want to compete in ADCC, so he is not worried about Craig Jones Invitational. Jassim has been very vocal about how much he wants to grow the sport in terms of the fan base, and he felt that bringing it to T-Mobile was the best thing to do for the sport of jiu-jitsu. Really up the production, hire social media people to be cutting things and promoting it throughout the whole week. And he was really looking to grow the sport of jiu-jitsu from a marketing standpoint. But a lot of people had issues with this take because they feel like $2 million could have been distributed among the athletes before investing into the T-Mobile arena. So again, whichever side you decide to take, I think at the end of the day, both Craig and Mo wants what's best for jiu-jitsu, and it seems like we're getting closer and closer to that. I think the best case scenario that even Joe said on his podcast is that, you know, ADCC randomly does pull out a little bit extra money to some of the winners of each division, and rewards them for their hard work as athletes. What do you think the magic number is for jiu-jitsu athletes to get paid for ADCC? And I want you to really take into consideration what other promotions are paying for MMA. Now that is a sport that's completely different. You're getting head damage. Obviously jiu-jitsu is still a combat sport, but you're not getting nearly as much head damage or bringing in as many people as an MMA, UFC star fighter would. So what is the appropriate amount that someone should be paid for winning ADCC? Is it really $1 million? I don't know if jiu-jitsu is at a point where the grand prize for ADCC could be at $1 million per every division. Like, I don't know if that makes sense. 250? I could get behind 250. But let me know what your guys' thoughts are. I think it's an open-ended question that, we need to discuss. Currently just editing everything together and realized that I would be remiss if I didn't point out Gordon Ryan's recent Instagram story, which read, "I see everyone saying I'm only doing the super fight this year. I haven't mentioned anything, nor has ADCC. So I just want to assure you all that you have no idea what I'm doing this year, but you will. Wink face." Last but not least, we're going to talk about some of the comments that you guys had in the recent live chat. One of them is from Big SQL. CJI is going to be another Metamoris. We're going to hear about the drama that fighters didn't get paid what they were promised, loss of sponsors, money constraints, etc. Only the dumb kids are excited. So I am a bit of a BJJ casual in the sense that I was not a fan of the sport yet when Metamoris was a thing. But I do have a colleague, shout out Scott Hirano, who filmed that and shot it. And he said it was a huge event. Obviously, Eddie Bravo's there. Hasha Gracie competed. So I'm going to have to go back and look at all of those competitions. But that's interesting to me that I don't really know how accurate your take is, that there was drama about the fighters that didn't get paid, lost of sponsors, etc. But if that is a true scenario or other people have heard about this, let me know in the comments and I can do some journalistic digging to see what that situation was like. Our next comment is from Kaz Ari. "I got tickets for ADC right when they were released. Long as Marigali is still there. And the $10,000 in one reminds me of the Price is Right back in the day when they're dunking on other players." Okay, so I kind of think that the $10,001 was actually a typo on the website, because posting about the prize money on their social media, it just says 10,000. So I feel like the website might have accidentally put 10,001, but we will make sure to ask the jiu-jitsu athletes if they got 10,000 or 10,001, because that is really important information that we need to find out. Philippine Palestra. CJI being sustainable. Oh, this is something that I forgot to hit from the Joe Rogan experience. Craig Jones says that he wants to do it annually, and depending on how well this first one goes, the investor might stick around. That's the thing about all of these promotions. And that was another comment that I wanted to make about how a lot of people think that, Mo has all this money to just be giving all the fighters more money. Granted, Mo probably does have a lot of personal money that he could help support the sport of jiu-jitsu, which he already has done. He's flown people out. He's paid for their rent. He's done a lot for the sport of jiu-jitsu. But in terms of him just investing his money for prize money, I don't think that would work. And a lot of people have this idea that ADCC makes all this money and all this. Guys, UFC is the only combat sports promotion that is in the green and well in the green. Most of these other combat sports promotions are in the red and they aren't really able to profit. So Mo said on a few ADCC live chats that he might be able to make ADCC hit green this year, but a lot of promoters say that, and it's a really, really hard thing to do. The UFC is the only promotion that is doing that right now, and you can look up online the numbers to these things. And if you want to go deeper into the business side of things, let me know in the comments if that's something that you're interested in. But a lot of people have this misconception that ADCC is making all this money and that they have a bunch of money to spend on increasing fighter pay. The money can definitely exist if investors put more money in it, but ADCC being profitable has yet to be true. That is not a true statement, that ADCC could pay the fighters prize money based off of their profits. That's just not realistic. Now our next comment is from Alfie Solomon 353. Imagine Fionn going against Gabby for a super fight at CJI and somehow Gabby wins. Then Craig flips the bird at her post-match and she goes on full on yall. I love you, Craig. You did something like this to me. I love you. See you soon, boy. I don't know where that comment was going, but I just wanted to mention that Fionn Davis is definitely involved in the CJI event. She was one of the first female athletes to, actually the only female athlete to say that she is leaving ADCC for CJI so far as of Tuesday, May 28th. We will find out who her opponent is. It's definitely not going to be Gabby Garcia unless Gabby Garcia has two matches, one against Craig and then another against Fionn. This comment from Stephen Kissy 842. Anyone that wins the trials doesn't need Mo and can drop out for the bigger payday. Fair enough. The Tackett brothers winning trials, they have left and headed to CJI. One of the big reasons that William Tackett said that he is choosing CJI is obviously for the money, but also because they are unclear whether or not CJI is even going to exist a year from today. So ADCC will always be there. So these fighters are looking at it as a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, despite Craig Jones wanting to make this an annual thing. Will it actually be an annual thing? Who knows? We could find out that Craig Jones hates being a promoter and he's just like, all right, I did my work. And we could also find out that the investor has a horrible experience with this whole thing and doesn't want to do it again. But who knows? For the sake of jiu-jitsu, let's hope everything goes super, super well and more money comes to the sport. Let's manifest that. And who is funny? How can Craig pay $1 million for division winners? Who is funding this and how will that make money? Says GSP3428. I hope I answered that question a little bit in the beginning. He basically said that he has a friend who is willing to make it happen. So Justin replied, he's been making a lot of friends. He's genuinely a likable guy. I could see someone willing to invest in his idea. Yeah, Craig is a ridiculously smart guy. I could listen to him talk about a bunch of random stuff, but when he goes on his historical tangents about whatever war or historical thing that happened that he's read a book on, I'm like, okay, I can listen to Craig talk. Even though Craig Jones is jokes and has a very silly side to him, he is very sincere, very driven, motivated to improve and help elevate the sport of jiu-jitsu. So I think it's a beautiful thing. I'm so happy for him that he's making it happen and that we're getting some answers as jiu-jitsu fans. So what is your guys' take on all of this? Do you fight or pay, or would you have rather it been on two separate weekends? What do you think about this Gabby Garcia versus Craig Jones fight? And who do you think is going to be the next athlete to drop out of ADCC? I think that's the biggest question. I know we're going to find out tomorrow, or we might even find out when I'm editing this video and I'm going to have to stop what I'm doing and add in that we found out more news. So anyway, if you guys enjoyed this video, please drop a like, drop a comment. Maybe you'll be featured in the next video. I appreciate you guys so much, and I cannot wait to get back on the jiu-jitsu mats so that one day I can compete at CJI. Just fucking kidding, but still. All right, I love you guys, and I'll talk to you soon.